In 2008, Marvel Studios released Iron Man. If you happened to be in the theater when the credits ended, you watched Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury introduced the Avengers Initiative. 11 years and 21 movies later, that dream has long since become a reality and reached its conclusion with Avengers Endgame. The movie's main focus is on the original 6 heroes: Iron Man, Hawkeye, Black Widow, Hulk, Thor, and Captain America, along with some others that have joined the universe along the way, as they come together to defeat the grand villain, Thanos. Its purpose is bigger than telling this story, however. Instead, it's more of a thank you to the fans that have made this one of, if not the biggest franchise in cinematic history. I'm the Pop Rocker, and today I want to talk about Marvel's love letter to fans. Before I dive too deep into this, let's make sure we're all caught up. Throughout the various Marvel movies, there have been 6 Infinity Stones floating around. Thanos has been working to collect them all and use their power to erase half the life in the universe. In Avengers Infinity War, the essential Part 1 to Endgame's finale, Thanos manages to do just this. And we watch as heroes we've come to love over the years, such as Falcon, Black Panther, and Spider-Man, are all turned to dust, leaving only a handful left, including the ones we've been following since the beginning. Endgame brings us into a world of despair, where even after 5 years, society is yet to recover from what Thanos did. In this almost apocalyptic landscape, the remaining Avengers travel through their own histories and try to collect the stones and bring everybody back. We are taken on a trip down memory lane by literally traveling through some of the movies that got us to where we are. In doing so, we also get to see the journey some of these characters have been on by showing us where they began. The first sequence takes us back to the first Avengers movie, during the Battle of New York in 2012. Hulk, Captain America, Iron Man, and Ant-Man are dropped right in the middle of the action, near Avengers Tower, where the team has just defeated Loki. We see the iconic scene of the 6 of them standing over Loki as they take him into their custody, but from a different angle, where it almost feels like a B-roll of the original moment. Cap then goes off after Loki's scepter, which contains the Mind Stone. The scepter is taken by a team including Commander Rumlow, aka Crossbones. Cap follows the team into an elevator, reminiscent of the popular fight scene from The Winter Soldier, widely regarded as one of the best scenes in the franchise, though this one has a very different resolution. After this, he comes face to face with himself, 10 years younger, and they fight for the staff. We see Captain America as he used to be, plucky and confident, ready to stand up to any foe in the name of justice. The old Cap would never even think to utter the words "Hail Hydra," even as a means to deceive the enemy. This contrasts with who he is now. In that 10 years, his government has turned on him, and the ideals he was trained to believe in have failed and crumbled. He has been hardened not only by the world and those that he trusted, but by the universe outside of it, and the dangers he didn't even think could exist before. We see a Captain America who would fight to uphold the law, versus one who would do what is right, whatever it takes. Hulk also gets a look at his former, angrier self, smashing his way through the city, and is embarrassed by his old ways. See, throughout the years, Bruce Banner has had some problems with the Hulk. They live in the same body, but have never really seen eye to eye. They've always fought each other for control. Hulk constantly battled from inside to come out, and Bruce had to find ways to keep him inside. In what is probably his most iconic moment, during the Battle of New York, the first time around, Banner delivers the line,
"I'm always angry,"
before transforming into the big guy on command. But the Banner we know now isn't angry at all, nor is the Hulk. In the years since Infinity War, Banner and Hulk have worked together to become a better version of themselves, the brains of one and the brawn of another. This Hulk is not fueled by rage and adrenaline. It is fitting then that while in search of the Time Stone, Hulk finds himself meeting an archetype of peace and tranquility in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the Ancient One, played by Tilda Swinton. Upon learning the results of the battle with Thanos, and of Doctor Strange willingly giving up the stone in his time, she does the same for Hulk. They do also come to an agreement that the stones will all be returned to the exact moment that they were taken. It should be mentioned now that this is maybe the only instance in the movie when time and continuity are cared for at all. Outside of this, time travel is given a weak explanation with plot holes just begging to be dug up.
Think about it. If you travel to the past, that past becomes your future, and your former present becomes the past.
It's clear that this was a quick attempt to allow the makers of this film the freedom to have fun with the story, as well as for us to have fun watching it, without being trapped and caught up in a specific set of rules. And for this movie, I'll give it a pass. This has nothing to do with the rest of the video, it just irks me. Meanwhile, Iron Man and Ant-Man team up to reclaim the Tesseract, or the Space Stone, from their former selves. They witness some of the old team have an altercation with Robert Redford's Alexander Pierce. They manage to get the stone by disrupting the arc reactor in old Tony's chest, causing a distraction that allows them to obtain the briefcase containing it. They are accidentally thwarted by the aforementioned Angry Hulk and lose the stone to Loki, who leaves with it. This leads Iron Man and Captain America to travel back to 1970 to get the Tesseract even earlier, as well as more Pym particles to make the journey back home. And it's here that Tony comes face to face with a young version of his father. Tony always resented his father, feeling that he put all of himself into his work and none into his son. He claims that his father never said "I love you," and clearly wants to be nothing like him, if he even has kids at all. By the time of this meeting, however, Tony does have a kid, a daughter named Morgan. He has seen parenting from the other side, and has forgiven his father for who he was, understanding that Howard, like himself, is a Stark, and loves in different ways. Howard tells Tony his wife is expecting, and asks him for parenting advice, which Tony gives, citing a line that Howard had told him as a child, creating a strange and beautiful cycle of father-son bonding. Howard says to Tony,
"That kid's not even here yet, and there's nothing I wouldn't do for him."
Stating with certainty that despite being a distant father, he did so out of love. Steve Rogers finds the Pym particles, but is almost caught, and ducks into the nearest door to hide. It turns out to be the office of Peggy Carter, who he sees through the glass in the next room. The great tragedy of Captain America throughout the series has been his inability to be with Peggy Carter. When he was frozen in ice back in World War I, he promised the woman he loved a dance. Since waking up, he has always wished to be back with her. Steve Rogers spends his life doing everything he can to protect and improve the life of others, but he can never truly get what he wants. Every decision he makes is for the sake of the greater good, and this is no different. Knowing that he has a mission to complete, he leaves without even speaking to Peggy, unable to get his closure that so many others receive in this film. It's great character moments like these that carry this movie and the franchise as a whole, and this is no different when it comes to the final member of the Big Three, Thor. Thor is in bad shape when we come across him in Endgame. Since the first time we met him, he has lost his mother, his father, his brother, his identity, his friends, his people, his home, and his lover, although I don't think anybody is counting that one. Even still, he fought to defeat Thanos in Infinity War, to make all of the loss worth it. But he failed. He was unable to kill Thanos when the time came. All of his loss was for nothing. In the short term, he comes to anger. But in the 5 years after, the 1,500-year-old Asgardian falls into depression. He puts on weight, drinks constantly, never leaves his home. He is technically still king of his remaining people who have settled on Earth, but he does nothing to help them. Thor travels to Asgard during the events of the Dark World, along with Rocket Raccoon, who has also lost his whole family, in an effort to get the Reality Stone from Jane. Instead, he finds his mother on the day that she dies, and goes to her for comfort. Knowing he is from the future, she listens to his story, and gives him the advice he needs to pick himself back up as only a mother can. She inspires him to let go of his failures and the things he's done wrong, and to focus on keeping his head up and continuing to be the person he is, rather than burdening himself with being the person he thinks he needs to be. In his eyes, if he fails at anything, he isn't perfect. She lets him know that he doesn't have to do everything right to be a king, and in fact, he doesn't even have to be a king at all. He retrieves an old version of his hammer, as well as his confidence, and he returns to the present time to join the fight. While they are around in plenty of movies, Hawkeye and Black Widow have always taken a back seat to their superpowered counterparts. But they too get a moment in the spotlight. Their backstories are similar and intertwined. When we first meet each of them in the MCU, they are both special agents for S.H.I.E.L.D., who aren't afraid to do whatever is necessary to complete the mission and move on to the next. Widow, having never really known her family, finds one in the Avengers, and in doing so, becomes a part of each one of them as well, and their morals become a part of her. In the aftermath of the Thanos snap, she is the one who keeps everyone in contact, spending the next 5 years trying to find a way to bring everybody back and make everything right. Hawkeye, on the other hand, had his family and picket fence. Almost every time we see him, he's trying to stay away from this life and live a normal one, but always finds a way to get dragged back into it. After his family is erased by Thanos, he falls back into his own ways, but on a more personal level. He isn't just going on missions because he's told to. He's seeking them out, killing the bad guys because he thinks they deserve it. After everything they've been through together, these two have a bond deeper than family, and would do anything to save each other, including from themselves. This is what makes it so heartbreaking when they arrive on Vormir, and discover that one of them has to die to get the Soul Stone. Widow says that everything she has done has been to get to this moment, to do whatever it takes to save everybody. Hawkeye understands, but refuses to let her. The two compete to throw themselves off the edge of the cliff, till Black Widow finally manages to sacrifice herself. And these aren't the only characters who find themselves on these paths. I mentioned Ant-Man and Rocket, but there are others who get their due. War Machine has been by Tony's side since the first movie, and has lost the use of his legs because of it. He has found himself torn between his country and his friends when it comes to doing the right thing, but he still tries to do it. There's also Nebula, Thanos' daughter, who was originally a villain in the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie, but has since been set on a redemption arc that has found her trying to defeat the father she once bowed to in respect. Captain Marvel is also here as well. At the end of the day though, this isn't their story. They are players in the game. The original 6 paved the way for everyone else, and as the sun sets on them, we reflect on what they gave us. The final battle is where all the emotion comes to a head. We see the past, present, and future of the franchise and the fandom all at once. We see the original 3 heroes doing battle with Thanos. We see Captain America, a man facing a god, refusing to stay down. We see the return of all our favorite characters, a reflection of Infinity War, where they all disappeared. We see Captain Marvel fighting and almost beating Thanos alone. We see all the women of the universe stand together, showing how far we've come since the series began. We get brilliant callbacks to moments in the franchise.
On your left.
On your left.
And above all, we see Captain America finally lift Thor's hammer. And this exemplifies everything this movie and this franchise have come to represent. The pure joy that comes from seeing the characters we've grown with, in one way or another, get to shine. This is what brings us back time and time again. For all the nods to past movies, there are also some there for the comic book fans that have been there since before this began and have continued during its time. It's no longer a nerdy subculture that kids are picked on and ostracized for. Now, we get to have fun being superhero fans, and the people behind the film know this. Rather than these moments being steps taken on the journey to defeat Thanos, it feels almost as if the Russos have it the other way around. This final battle with Thanos and the journey it takes to get there are the backdrop in place for the sake of giving us these moments. over 20 plus movies, there has been a meticulous effort to keep a tight ship running. The continuity is there, the world building is there, it's grounded when it needs to be, and it's larger than life otherwise. But it was all to get here. Now that they've made it here, Kevin Feige, the Russos, and everyone else involved decided to let loose. Forget making it perfect, just have fun. Enjoy being a part of this. And I mean that in the best way. Everything can't end wrapped up in a perfect bow though, as in comics they rarely do. Tony Stark has been the main character of this series thus far. Even in movies he isn't in, his name and legacy hang over everything. Throughout his own series and the Avengers series, more often than not, his arc has been the central one driving the characters and plot. Tony Stark was an arrogant billionaire whose world didn't extend past the tip of his own nose. He ran an arms company and supplied weapons to both sides for profit. After he witnesses his own weapons kill people and almost kill him, he begins to see the inhumanity behind what he's doing and becomes Iron Man as an attempt to stop the true evil in the world. During this journey to become a better person, he sees the threats beyond this planet and makes it his mission in life to protect Earth. He makes many mistakes and sacrifices along the way. It almost cost him his life multiple times. After he loses, he gives up. He decides he can't be out there anymore when his family is what matters to him. But it's not until he has to look at them while he alone can save the rest of the universe that he realizes it's bigger than him. He can stop the enemy, but it's not him against the world. It's him saving the world. And that leads him through his 11-year journey to the ultimate sacrifice. This isn't Iron Man shooting at the bad guys until he beats them, nor is it Captain America doing so with his shield, or Thor with his hammer. This is Tony Stark doing what he has to for his friends, the world, and his daughter. This is why Marvel has succeeded where others have failed. They capture the reality that nobody else really can, the honest humanity behind these characters. We come for the heroes and the superpowers, but we stay for the people behind the masks. We can project ourselves onto them. I don't see myself in Spider-Man, I see myself in Peter Parker. This is why the closure doesn't come for the superheroes. Torches are passed to others, and the future is shown to be in good hands. But it's for this reason that there can be closure in the first place. There will always be a bad guy, and there will always be heroes to stop them. But it won't always be these people. This movie lets them complete their stories before letting the show continue to go on. Tony Stark finally stopped the threat he's known was coming for so long. Bruce Banner finally made peace with his inner demon and found a way to live in harmony with it. Clint Barton finally got out of the game, accepting the things he's done and moving on to live a peaceful life with his family. Thor Odinson finally came to terms with his position as king, or more so the fact that it's not who he's meant to be after all. Natasha Romanoff finally cleared the red in her ledger by making a heroic decision that saved mankind, and Steve Rogers finally got his dance with Peggy. Robert Downey Jr. has left his mark. Chris Evans has left his mark. Anthony and Joe Russo have left their mark. Joss Whedon has left his mark. Stan Lee has left his mark. Many others who have left their mark are moving on along with them, and many more will be soon. And this is their way of saying thank you to us. Thank you for being fans. Thank you for standing with us through our triumphs and missteps. Thank you for reading the same comics we read and loving the characters we brought to life. Thank you for accepting our work with open arms. And I think I speak for all of us when I say no. Thank you for giving us the chance to.